Have you ever called an emergency number like 911 or your local police or fire department for help? Have you ever thought much about the person that answered your call? Probably not, and that's okay. I'm here to tell you a little bit about that job and how it can take an emotional toll on the people who work it, and why that should matter to you. My name is Kendra Bean, and I'm a telecommunicator. I answer and dispatch those calls for a living. Studies show that people like me are more likely than the general population to suffer from PTSD, anxiety, and depression. First, what do we call the person who answers the phone? Most people know the term dispatcher, but there is a different term that I'd like you to know moving forward. It's telecommunicator. See, in the emergency communications world, a dispatcher is the person who gets on the radio and tells people where their help is needed. The person who answers the phone when you call is a call taker. In some agencies, the call taker and the dispatcher are the same person. So the term telecommunicator encompasses both of these types of work. Telecommunicators also gather information from the caller and field responders, coordinate multiple people while simultaneously giving directions to keep everyone safe. You might also think of these people as 911 based on the number that you call in an emergency. But in many areas, including the Yakima Valley, 911 might not be the only way to call for help. You might call a fire communication center or a police department instead. We call these different places answering points. In fact, in Yakima County, there are 7 different emergency answering points. These are comprised of Suncom, which is our 911 center, Lower Valley Fire, and 5 law enforcement agencies. We're all telecommunicators and we all work a job that can take a toll on our mental health. So what is that toll? Well, there aren't a lot of studies out there. The studies that are out there pretty much come to the same conclusion though, and spoiler alert, it's not good. A study in the Canadian Journal of Psychiatry titled Mental Disorder Symptoms Among Public Safety Personnel in Canada found that telecommunicators experienced PTSD and major depressive disorder at a similar rate to other first responders and had higher rates of generalized anxiety disorder. All of the groups of first responders in the study experienced mental health disorders at a higher rate than the general population. In another study by the Canadian Psychological Association titled Suicidal Ideation Plans and Attempts Among Public Safety Personnel in Canada, the researchers found that in the prior year, 9.5% of the telecommunicator participants had thought about suicide, and 8.6% had attempted suicide at some point. This is also a higher rate than the general population. Dr. Todd W. Burke, who was a former police officer and professor, performed a study titled Dispatcher Stress. In that study, he specifically looked into how some outside factors, like lack of support and training, can exacerbate stress in telecommunicators. He found that there was burnout from ongoing, unrelenting stress, and that employees who felt more recognized and respected coped with that stress better than those that felt they were treated as second-class citizens. Some other risk factors that he identified were low pay, a lack of opportunity for advancement, and not enough loyalty within the workplace, especially from the administration. Along those lines, it's worth noting that our federal government currently classifies telecommunicators as clerical staff. The Office of Management and Budget has declined to reclassify telecommunicators as a protective profession. So why is this important to you? Because they are part of the team that helps you in an emergency, and you should want them to be mentally healthy so they can respond in tip-top shape. Also, you want good telecommunicators to stay in that line of work, and that's hard to do if a person feels like the job is taking too much of a toll. Heather Peters and Michelle Lilly of the Department of Psychology at Northern Illinois conducted a study called Duty-Related Trauma Exposure in 911 Dispatchers and concluded that dispatchers have a higher rate of PTSD than the general population. They said, and I quote, "Post-traumatic stress disorder symptoms that may be present in telecommunicators can impair decision-making abilities and functioning, which could pose significant risk to the general population that relies on them to quickly and effectively coordinate an emergency response." And that is the reason why this matters to you. When you call for help, you want to reach someone that is mentally and emotionally ready for whatever emergency you throw at them. And the studies are showing that that readiness is at risk. Thank you for your time, and don't forget to thank your local dispatcher. Have you ever called